Am I the asshole for refusing to name our son after my husband's dead grandfather? I, 27F, and my husband, 29M, have been married for 2 years and are now expecting our first baby, boy. For context, when I was 7 I was diagnosed with OCD and was put in therapy for many years to help manage it, which I'm very thankful to my parents for. However, one of my exercises given to me by my therapist was to name it as a way to basically tell intrusive thoughts to FCK off. I'd chosen the name Otis mostly because they started with the same letter and I'd never met someone with the name. Fast forward 15 years, I met my husband through a mutual friend. We dated for 3 years before getting married. He knows all about my therapy as I still continue to see him every few months if things get hard, and my husband was and still is very supportive of me seeing him. I failed to mention the naming bit. It's sorta embarrassing and I didn't find the need to mention it. Fast forward to now. We chose to find out the gender. My sister and brother-in-law even threw us a surprise gender reveal where we found out it was a boy. My husband suggested we name him after his grandfather, Otis, who'd passed away nearly 2 years ago. Not wanting to cause a scene, I'd suggested we talk about it later and promptly forgot about it until one night when he'd brought it up again. I told him that although I loved his grandfather, I couldn't see us naming our son, Otis. He got upset, questioning why I, being too embarrassed to say why, just said I don't like the name. He was hurt by this, which was my last intention, and he decided to sleep in the guest room. Things have been tense the last few days and I don't know what to do. So am I the asshole? Update. I initially posted this a few days after the incident and have talked to him since then. I wanted to also clear some things up. My husband and I have a great relationship. He expressed to me that he'd slept in the guest bedroom because he was hurt and overwhelmed. He wasn't angry with me, just simply confused. Me and my husband sat down to have a conversation where I explained to him the exercise I was given by my therapist and the fact the name is associated with my OCD. He in no way was angry with my reasoning. He expressed how he was feeling, and although the name Otis meant a lot to him as he was very close with his grandfather, he would never put me in a place where I didn't like the name of our son. For those suggesting my husband is toxic and so is our marriage because he took some space are very wrong. My husband is my best friend and has shown me no reason to doubt him. He's a loving husband and soon-to-be father. I trust him with my life, and that's why I chose to marry him and have a baby with him. For people debating if he's wrong for asking why, clearly never had kids, it was wrong of me to expect him to just accept no for an answer for a name that meant a lot to him. The entire process of choosing names, we were suggesting them to each other and asking why we didn't like certain names. It's the process. My OCD is a very touchy topic. In my last post I said I was too embarrassed to tell my husband, and I think I worded it in the wrong way. My husband is the definition of supportive. He's done everything he can to learn about OCD so he could understand it better. I wasn't embarrassed telling him, it was more so I was embarrassed that after 20 years of therapy OCD still affects my life more than I wanted it to. I was embarrassed saying it aloud. After a very emotional talk where we discussed names and how we wanted to honor his grandfather as much as possible, we compromised on the name, Alex, which was his grandfather's middle name, and Otto, for a middle name which was a nickname for his grandfather. I was also very close with his grandfather and loved the man dearly. He was like a father figure to my husband, and I sincerely apologized to my husband for making up a reason for not liking the name. I also explained that I did like the name Otis, and if it weren't for the association I would name our son that in a heartbeat to honor his grandfather. He accepted that answer and we're perfectly happy and ready for our son's soon arrival. Thank you all. Literally just tell him why. Nah. But please be honest with your husband. He deserves to know the truth. Why start your new chapter off on a lie? You are the asshole. Because you definitely hurt your husband by turning down naming the kid after his grandfather. Because you don't like the name? Just tell him the real reason why. You're justified in not wanting the name, but not justified in lying. Not wanting the name is fine, but you are the asshole for not explaining why to your husband. Sure. Normally you can just reject names you don't like when you're deciding on baby names, but this one is very meaningful to your husband and he actually does deserve to know why you don't want it. He already knows about your therapy and you say he's very supportive. You think this aspect of it is embarrassing, but it definitely isn't, and your husband won't think so either. Nah. You're not an aw for being too embarrassed to discuss this with your so. I don't know if being upset makes your significant other an aw either. The name clearly means a lot to him. Unless he acts distant and sleeps in the guest room any time you have a minor disagreement? I'm sure that if you could find a way to communicate your issues with the name, he would understand why and would not want your firstborn to be named after something that is quite traumatic for you. I hope you find the tools and support you need to communicate that. Am I the asshole for not feeling responsible for my friend's feelings? Just for some context, I'm pretty fond of saying and hearing things coherently and correctly, and no, I'm not talking about grammar. I know there will be spelling errors, since English is not my first language and I understand a touchscreen or a keyboard aren't the best things to write on either, to avoid misunderstandings, while my friends don't tend to think so much about it before talking, as some of them consider themselves bad at expressing their thoughts, others as a little bit illiterate, and some of them say they don't care that much about speaking so correctly. This has led to me pointing out, not constantly nor with bad intentions or manners whatsoever, but more often than the average person, some things they say that are incorrect or make no sense, usually ending up in arguments where apparently the only thing they remember is me talking to them in bad manners, no matter if the conversation had started in a normal way. So here's the thing. A few days ago we had a text conversation where one of them, which is usually a constipated person, asked for help about their stomach situation, saying they wished to stop being laxated, just to say a few seconds later that they wished they stopped being constipated. This got me confused, so I asked them, in the most neutral way possible, which one was it, since those things were contradicting and I didn't know what to suggest. Then, after a brief argument where they just kept twisting their words to prove there wasn't anything wrong with what they said instead of answering the question, while also getting mad at me for telling them there was something wrong, they started telling me that I was purposely not understanding what they were trying to say, whether they were constipated or laxated, to make a big deal of it, calling me FC King annoying, accusing me of expecting everyone to be perfect and not shutting up just to be on top of everyone. I obviously didn't feel thrilled about them insulting me, so I told them that maybe I wouldn't be so persistent if they actually handled feedback without constantly changing their words and/or admitted they made a mistake. Then, they started justifying not even listening to anything I say since I make them feel bad because of my bad manners when I talk to them, and then they started demanding for apologies, because, in their opinion, I never say anything with good manners, not even the question I made a few minutes ago, because apparently they interpreted my plain text message as if, and I quote, there wasn't a way for them to tell if I was asking them in bad manners or not. Worth mentioning that they resorted to the ad numerum fallacy to justify them interpreting my message as something I didn't say instead of just reading what I wrote, just because two other people felt the same way, without even considering that they may be a little conditioned by other bad experiences they remember having. So, am I the asshole for not feeling responsible for the way they felt in this situation about my message and thus not apologizing? Edit. Tried to clarify some things that I didn't think would fit in the word limit, because it seems people are mainly focusing on the context or the thing the bot posted, which I'm aware of, and didn't really know how to fill it, and not the part where I ask whether if I ATA or not, for not feeling that I owe an apology because my friends felt bad for my bad manners, after they interpreted my message the way they wanted and not the way it was written. Edit 2. To all the comments telling me it's hypocritical that I tell my friends when they're wrong while not being able to handle the comments telling me that I'm wrong. That was not the point. I have no problem with my friends trying to explain that they're not wrong. The problem is the fact that they start insulting me when they don't have anything else to say, which, a fake, is not something I've done yet. You are a deep believer that people should hear feedback, and address it earnestly. This belief holds for all people, everywhere, except yourself. You hear your friends telling you that you're annoying with your particularity and your tenacity. But you cannot accept this message, instead they must be wrong. Because of this hypocrisy, you are the asshole. You are the asshole for starting an argument over literal shit. You are the asshole because after reading this my head is sore. People don't like being constantly corrected and you need to accept that you're not always right. YTA. Info is English your first language, and/or do you have ASD? Am I the asshole for not letting my sister use the family property for her upcoming wedding? I am 25. My sister is 29. I also have a younger sister, 8. When I was 14, my mom sent me to live with her parents. Her excuse was that they needed me to help out. I believe she just didn't want to deal with a growing male teen. My grandparents owned an amazing property in the mountains that has an amazing view. We also have some horses and other critters. They were also quite wealthy as well. They both passed 4 years ago a month apart. They gave me the property, because I would appreciate and respect it more, while my mom and sisters got money and other assets, overall valued more than the property. In the past 4 years, I turned part of the property into a venue for mainly weddings. GPs knew of this idea and thought it was a good one. We are busy and usually booked about 8 months out. My sister got engaged 1.5 years ago and said she wasn't to get married at the property. I said yes, just let me know the date as soon as possible so I can make sure it is booked. I never got a date. I followed up several times and kept asking her, and she would brush me off. 2 weeks ago I got the wedding invitation, stating the property is the location and the date, which is in September of this year. I immediately called her to say that we have booked for that date and can't accommodate her. Well, now her, my mom, other family, her partner's family, as well as other flying monkeys have been blowing up on me. They are also calling and writing reviews for my business. I asked them to stop and call my sister, telling her that literally all she had to do was tell me when she knew her date so I could block it and I would take care of everything else. She went off on how I am ruining her day. It is our family's property. How she already sent out the invitations and couldn't go back now. I should just tell the other couple to cancel. They have been on the books for over a year now, and I actually like them. Family is more important. After the last big blow-up, I started communicating strictly through the business, using our recorded line as well as email. I suggested 3 other dates around the same time, but that's not good enough. I'm being resentful and an too long did not read. I own a popular wedding venue property that my sister wants to get married on, but she didn't tell me the dates until a few months before. It is booked for the day she wants. She already sent out invitations. How I found out? Since I won't cancel the other couple's reservations, I'm being called an ETA. Thank you all for the overwhelming response. I thought I was going crazy. I'll try to respond to Propal later when I have some time. Thank you for all the advice and responses. ETA number 2. Wow. There is no possible way I can respond to everyone. I have been taking notes about what people are saying and will go through the process as I have time. Most likely Monday. I plan on getting in contact with the couple and see if I can take them to dinner or something to explain the situation. I'm thinking of giving them a discount, getting a guest list, and being tight on security on our part. Thanks, everyone. Not the asshole. Retract the offer to use the property at all. Hire security for the wedding date with invitations out now. Some people may show, and you don't want the day ruined for the lovely couple already booked for the date. Respond to every review they leave with a cut and paste comment saying that the wedding party in question never booked your venue. Short, simple and no apology or over-explanation. Your mom had to be the one filling her head with, "It's fine, it's our property, we can use it whenever we want." Not the asshole. Honestly, I would just say no to her having her wedding there at this point. She seems like a nightmare bride. I'd imagine the stress and havoc she's gonna cause if she's acting this way already. Not the asshole in every way. Not the asshole. Why wouldn't she tell you the date when you asked? That's fucking ridiculous. Am I the asshole for ruining my last family dinner for my grandfather? My grandfather was diagnosed with terminal brain cancer and the doctors told him he had only 3 months to live. My parents and my grandmother planned a get-together dinner for all our family, so my grandfather to see everyone for one last time. It a while to organize, but everyone managed to drop what they were doing and come and see my grandfather. I come from a strictly Christian household who are not very accommodating to change or difference. Lots of my cousin and me included identity in the LGBTQ+ community. It makes these family gatherings awkward as the older members do not care for us the same way they care for the straight cisgendered kids. Our grandfather was the worst about this. He could never understand why we would do this, and he would consistently get so upset to the point where our family had to ban any of that type of discussion or else his heart rate for climbed to high and he would get really sick. I just got engaged with my partner who is non-binary. Most of my family know as I posted it a lot on Facebook, but the only person who doesn't is my grandfather. I was considering not even going as this man was not a good person or grandfather to me and a lot of my family. However, this has really affected my mom who, while supportive enough for me, does not see the issue for me. I still decided to go and see, but I did not bring my partner just to keep it civil. At dinner all my cousins went and at first everything seemed fine. I stuck to the family that actually care about me as to not cause any drama. However, my homophobic auntie decided to bring up my partner while we were eating. I was calm at first, but then she started showing off the photos we had took and began talking bad about my relationship and my partner. This started my grandfather to start questioning me, then some of my other uncles and aunties. Before I knew it I just blew up at them and I just shouted at them about how they mentioned this on purpose and how I was just sick of every one of their jabs at my life. I was speaking to most people on the table including my grandfather, who seemed shocked but angry at my outburst. After that I just left. Now I'm being bombarded with all sorts of family members. My mother was pretty upset with me for in her words ruining the dinner and many of my aunts and uncles shared the same opinion. Though speaking with my other cousins they said while it was still tense dinner carried on and it seemed my leaving had no effect rather made some of them feel better. Later I did send a text message to my mother to say I am not participating in any more family functions and will be blocking any extended family that aren't my few cousins and her. She said I was being unreasonable until I also said I would not be attending my grandfather's funeral as well. She has completely ignored me since I said that and now I am worried I went too far. Am I the asshole for ruining dinner? Should I have not texted my mom that soon after the incident? Should I have not gone at all? Not the asshole. You actually did all you could. Your relatives should have kept their mouth shut. Not the asshole. The problem ain't with you. Your aunt fucked it up and your family added oil to the fire. Fuck them. Not the asshole. Your reaction to your aunt's outright attack on you and your partner was more than deserved. And quite frankly I would block that woman from all aspects of your life period. You do however need to have a face-to-face with your mother. Whether you attend the funeral or not is up to you, but your mom needs your support at least emotionally right now. I don't care how old you are or how prepared you think you are, losing a parent is very difficult. Not the asshole. You went great lengths to avoid discussing something that you knew would upset your grandfather. Your aunt brought it up anyway, knowing it would upset your grandfather. You tried to back down and your family wouldn't. Not the asshole. Your aunt ruined dinner the second she brought it up.